Welcome into the Cool Grandpa Podcast. This is the podcast where we talk to grandfathers, adult grandchildren, and experts in areas of importance to grandfathers. Whether you're a new grandfather, a seasoned pro, or somebody interested in learning about relationships, this is the place for you. So come on in, join us as we learn together, laugh together, and support each other on the Cool Grandpa Podcast. Curt Liljedahl is joining me to talk about his experience with his two grandfathers. Now, you may remember Curt and his wife Cindy from the episode we did on AdventuRetired. Now, Curt and Cindy are encouraging other baby boomers, Generation X, Silent Generation, basically everybody as you start to head into these years of retirement to get out there, have adventures, go on and keep exploring this great big world of ours. You are going to enjoy listening to this episode with just Curt talking about his grandfathers, the influence they had on him, and some of the fun and mischief that they got into together. So, without further ado, let's jump into this conversation. Hi, Curt. Welcome to the Cool Grandpa Podcast. I'm excited to have you back on to talk about your grandfathers.
Yeah, we're doing good. How are you, Greg?
I'm doing well. We're getting all ready for the holidays down here and, looking forward to spending some time with the grandkids in the future.
Yep. Our one and only granddaughter, Sunny, is coming up here for Christmas with her mom and dad. So she'll be 10 months old, I guess, but we'll get to play in the snow.
Oh, yeah. That'll be fun watching her kind of, because she's probably close to that drunken sailor stage, kind of the wobbling around if she's walking.
Oh, she's not walking
Not yet.
but she might by then.
Sure. It's a blast. I remember watching my kids start to walk around like that, and then you throw a little bit of snow at them that they get excited about, and then that just adds to the mix between, a few steps falling down, and but they're having a blast with it.
Oh, yeah. Got to have the right clothes, though, and being from Houston, I guess we'll go to the secondhand store and grab her some.
Yeah, that's true. That's the other thing with, in a snowy climate and stuff is you're buying kids clothes and you're only using them for a season.
Yeah.
Before they outgrow them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So there'll be good stuff there at the Goodwill store or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Worn like 3 times and, tags are still on them and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's true.
Now, I wanted to have you on so we could talk a little bit about the impact that your grandfathers had and your relationship with them, and then also talk a little bit about your relationship with being a grandfather as well. So if you don't mind, could you briefly introduce your grandfathers, tell us their names, a little bit of what you know as far as what they did growing up and how did they make a living?
Both my grandfathers I knew pretty well. They both died by the time I was in junior high. My grandfather on my father's side, J.M. Liljedahl, he was a good guy. He was a farmer, but he went to college. He went to Iowa State University and graduated in a 2-year farm program in 1914, where he met my grandmother, and they ended up getting married and having 5 sons. And my other grandfather was a store owner. He owned a store, and then it turned into like a grain mill. And then eventually my uncles took it over and turned into a fertilizer plant. That grandfather did not go to college, but he did well for a living.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I always love getting these backgrounds on everybody because it does also help us understand where we are today with us being grandfathers. I mean, so many of us have grandfathers that were farmers or worked in mines or did a lot of heavy physical work. And now we can see how we've transitioned.
Yeah. Yeah, I was pretty close to both of them too growing up, especially my grandfather Liljedahl, because he lived just in the little town about a half mile away from us. And he was my babysitter. I mean, mom and dad would go to the other kids' basketball games, football games, and everything like that. And I was down there with Grandpa Liljedahl all the time. And my grandmother on that side died when I was 6. So it was a lot of just Grandpa and me time, which was great. And I kind of, when you look at me and you look at his pictures, I kind of take after his side. I'm tall. I got hair on my head, and as opposed to the other grandpa who was shorter and balder. So
Oh, sure. Well, and it's always a trip to look at those family photos, and every once in a while you see the ones where it's almost like a clone, where you've got
yeah,
grandkids or whatever, and they might, maybe it's an uncle or something where it's like, wow, if you put this person in a black and white photo, that would have been just like what grandpa looked like, or just
yeah,
what your uncle looked like.
you see the genetics coming through. That's pretty cool.
What were some of the earliest memories that you have of your grandfathers? And I mean, I know you said babysitting was one of them, but what were some of those other early memories?
Oh, wow. Like Grandpa Liljedahl, like I said, I spent a lot of time with him. And one of my greatest memories of him was probably we went to town one time to have coffee because that's what grandpas did back then. And I had on this pair of denim coveralls. And one of his coffee friends says, "Well, you need a candy bar." And he bought me a candy bar for every pocket in my coveralls. And so I know Grandpa's just sitting there shaking his head at his friend, but I got a lot of candy that day. It was cool. But yeah, my grandpa Liljedahl, he was kind of like the grandfather for our little town. All the kids would go to his house, and he had a cool basement in his house that we would run laps in, and he would time us. And it was just, we had fun at Grandpa's house. It was a good time.
Now, were there any particular activities that you did that was like, hey, this is definitely me and grandpa time? Sometimes those come up, but then oftentimes too, they don't, especially when you live close by to your grandfather's.
Yeah, no, I would say, like I said, Grandpa and I just spent a lot of time I thought it was just, putting in time with Grandpa. Little did I know it was babysitting. I probably drove him crazy. But yeah, we always did things. Like I said, we ran races in his basement. He had this cool couch that we would high jump over the back of it, and he'd let us do stuff like that. Had Grandma been alive, I'm sure she would have never let us do that. But Grandpa was pretty fun about that.
Oh, I bet. Now, I got to ask you, when you're doing these high jumps over the couch, was your dad ever shaking his head and just being like, "There's no way we could have done that growing
Yeah,
up"?
no, no, I don't think so. I don't know if Dad even knew about it. He was the youngest of five boys, so he probably got away with stuff too.
Oh, sure, sure. Hey, now, how did the relationship start to change a little bit as you got a little bit older and even started heading off towards middle school or junior high?
Yeah, I probably didn't. Yeah, he died in junior high, and so it was kind of interesting when we were country kids, so we would ride the bus. And I know my daughters have heard this story. We walked home from school, 2 feet of snow uphill both ways. But we really did. They let us off at the highway, and we would walk a quarter of a mile to California Junction, which is the town my grandfather lived in. And I would either go to grandpa's house then, or I'd walk all the way home, which was another quarter mile. And we did that every day that we could, whether it's snow or not. And when it was cold, we'd stop at grandpa's for a while and warm up. So that was always cool. And one of my fondest memory, two of my fondest memories of grandpa, how smell and taste are a good memory. I can drink apple juice, fresh apple cider, and I can close my eyes and I'm in my grandpa Liljedahl's kitchen, just because he always had fresh apple juice there. And Oreo cookies. Oreo cookies are the same memory. He had this one cookie jar that had Oreos in it, and that's the only time we got Oreos. Mom never bought us Oreos. And so now I can eat an Oreo, automatically think of Grandpa JM there, which is cool.
Oh, that's awesome. I enjoy hearing those stories because with me, it was always smells. So with my
Oh,
grandfather, it was a little bit of the dust in the wheat field mixed with, smell of manure,
right.
mixed in with some diesel and just those hot days where those smells and everything come up. So when I'm in farm country and I
Yeah.
hit those smells, it takes me back to Eastern Oregon.
Yeah. Now my other grandpa would be Old Spice, the aftershave, because that grandpa, he wore aftershave, not ridiculous amounts, but he was like the first guy I ever was around that had aftershave on. So you smell Old Spice and you think of Grandpa.
Oh, that's funny. In the Old Spice, especially, because I'll tell you a little bit of story here. So my wife had that same, smell association, but it was her dad that had Old Spice.
Okay.
And so that was one of the rules when we were dating and then got married, is like, you're not allowed to wear Old Spice, because then it'll remind me of like my dad when we're making out or whatever.
Yeah, she has daddy issues.
Right. And it's like, no, you can't, it's forbidden. But
Right.
but yeah, she got the Old Spice for the kids when they started shaving and stuff like that. It was okay for her boys to have it, but
Yeah, right.
but not the husband.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
What are some of the memories and some of the lasting, I guess, lessons that you might remember about your grandfathers and what they shared with you?
Um, yeah, both my grandfathers were retired by the time I came along. I'm kind of like the runt at the end of the family. So I never saw them really go to work, but I know they worked hard in their day. My other grandfather, James Burtelson, on my mother's side, the greatest memory of them is, oh gosh, when was it? 1952 or 1953. He was up fishing in Minnesota and he saw this resort that he liked, and so he bought it. And it had a couple cabins and a house and some outbuildings on it. And he bought this resort for just his family to come to. And so we still own the resort, but it's just a family thing. My mom's side, there were 8 kids there. We just kind of take turns going to the cabins and stuff like that. And amazingly, I think my grandfather died up there at the cabins, because him and grandma would go up all summer. And then us children, my parents and grandchildren, us would rotate around on two-week cycles. And so for 2 weeks, you got to go up to these cabins and hang out with grandma and grandpa and, swim in the lake. And they would go fishing. I'm not a fisher person, but we'd go fishing. And then on Friday nights, we would go into town to Bemidji, Minnesota. And they had a little carnival there, and rides were a dime. Each ride cost a dime. And we all eat supper together at the cabins, and there can be 20 to 60 people there. And all us grandkids would line up with grandpa, and he'd give each one of us $1. And we thought that was a huge amount of money. And we could go into town. Mom and dad would take us into town, and we get to ride 10 rides with that $1 that grandpa gave us. And that was so fun. So fun.
Oh, cool. Now, when you were up there, were you doing chores and helping out around there, or were you
Yeah.
guys just on vacation?
Well, we were mostly on vacation. The adults do chores. Now that I'm adult, you go up there and you saw down trees and you do stuff like that. But as kids, no, they pretty much just let us play. And it was kind of grandma and grandpa would kind of the head of everything. And then the kids, our parents and aunts and uncles, yeah, they would do some work because you got to keep the place up. But no, then us kids, we just played. We
All
were
right.
in the water all the time and doing stupid things. And yeah, we just played.
So they weren't having you chop trees and knock down weeds and doing all that kind of
No,
stuff yet.
no. They knew we were on vacation time, and grandma and grandpa respected that, I think.
Oh, that's great. Were
Yeah, we
there
still own the place,
well,
We've had it like 75 years now.
wow.
Yeah. And the neat thing is that property there, I mean, it's 5 acres on a lake. So the value of it's really probably pretty good, even though we haven't done any repairs or anything. But grandpa's wish was to keep the place. I think that was in his will, make sure you keep we call it Burtelson Corner, keep the corner. And so now the kids have set everything up into a trust, and so everybody in the family is on the trust, and it can't be sold until the last person on the trust list has been dead 21 years. And then the money can only go to charities. So they've set it up that our family still goes there. I mean, California, East Coast, West Coast, everywhere. They still go there in rotations, but everybody takes care of it and everybody knows that it's going to be there forever, pretty much.
Oh wow, that's incredible that you guys have that kind of a family, uh, resort, that refuge to go back to, because now that's really starting to put in that whole identity with you and your siblings and the kids and
Right.
grandkids of like, hey, this is where we all get together. This is how the family comes together. And
Yeah.
then you still have to talk about the family business part of it too. Like did a tree fall over on something that has to get cut down and chopped up or
And we have each family, there's only 7 of them now, but each family has a vote. They pay their dues and they have meetings. And, if they have to do an assessment where each family has to pay in a little, they do. And we have rent for each one of the places that you stay there. So it's like $50 a night, but all that goes to upkeep and taxes and stuff like that. It's really kept my mother's side of the family close to each other, which is really cool. You'll go there and you'll see a cousin you haven't seen in 20 years, but you know each other from that. So that's kind of fun.
what types of activities did you guys end up doing there? Because we talked about the fishing a little bit, but did you
Right.
have any other activities that would typically fall into your time being up at the
Oh
resort?
yeah, yeah. Acting charades at night were always fun. Our evening meal was always together, everybody. One person would have the main course, and then other aunts and uncles, whoever is in camp, would bring the sides. And I've been at those where there's been 70 of us, and we get in a circle, and we pray for the meal and everything. Badminton's really good up there and fiercely competitive. That's fun. We used to play a lot of volleyball every night after dinner. We'd go over and we played volleyball, and however many you had, you just split them up half and half, and it was fun. It was fun. I don't ever remember. Like I said, I was pretty young, so Grandma and Grandpa were pretty old, but I don't ever remember Grandma and Grandpa playing. But I definitely remember one of my uncles who he was about 102 and he passed away. I remember him playing in his probably 70s.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a special place that they had there.
Sure. What kind of an impact did that have on you as you had your children, and then even now you've got the granddaughter, as
Yeah,
far as, the importance of having family around, the importance of activities, did that have a lasting impact on you?
I think it did. I mean, my family, Cindy and the 2 girls and son-in-law and now granddaughter, that's everything to me. And, do we get together with my brothers and sister and like that as much as we used to? No. But we've always been the one that's lived away from everybody too. We live on a lake now, which was pretty important. I always loved going to Minnesota to be by the lake, and now I get to be by a lake a lot. But yeah, family, both my grandparents taught me that family is pretty much everything in my world. I mean, I know you got your jobs and you got to earn a living and like that, but family is really important.
One thing I want to ask you about too is to think about is how has that background kind of affected you and Cindy, your attitudes around adventures and getting out and doing things outside, because these are definitely, memories that you have of being out and about and doing things and not necessarily sitting down with a stamp collection.
Right. Well, that's what, Cindy and I believe in getting out and doing things, whether it's with our kids. And I hope that I get to have these things with my one granddaughter. And if more come along, I want to be that grandpa that takes them out. I won't take them fishing because I don't fish, but I want to be that grandfather who takes them out camping and, does things differently. I mean, like you could tell our 2 grandpas when I was growing up, one of the grandpas was the one that gets down on the floor and wrestles around. The other grandpa's the one that's a little more laid back, and he doesn't do that. I guess I'll probably be the crazy grandpa. I'm the only grandpa for Sonny, so I'll get to be the crazy one and the normal one, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it's always fun planning for the future and thinking about how that's going to be because I know I'm certainly doing that with my grandkids.
Oh yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask you too. I think when I had you on before, I hadn't asked you about your book. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about that and give you a chance to plug this book that you've written.
My shameless plug. Okay, thank you. Yeah, when I was teaching, I taught high school kids physics, and my oldest daughter was going to college, and I started thinking, there's things I wanted her to learn that I didn't maybe I hadn't told her yet. And so I started coming up with what I called life lessons. And I'm that father who, when they turned 16 and started to drive, I made them check the oil, check the air pressure in the tires, learn how to jumpstart your car, and how to change a tire. Now I'm out there with my daughters, and I'm making them change the tire. And they say, well, we can't get the lug off. Well, you put this like this and you stand on it and stuff like that. So I started writing these down, and I would read them to my students every once in a while on like a Friday afternoon when you're done with all your work. And the kids liked him, and they said, you should write a book, Mr. Liljedahl. And I said, yeah, don't write book. But in retirement, I did decide to write a book, which is easier to do now with the onset of Amazon, and that you can self-publish. I'm not that great that, Simon Schuster or whatever these publishing companies are knocking my door down or something. But so I self-published on Amazon, and it's called Fix the Problem and Other Life Lessons from a Pragmatic Dad. And it's just, $6.99 on Amazon. You can read my opinions, because some of the stuff I'm sure people don't agree with, and that's fine, but it was fun to do, to say I've written a book, and to say, I made a little money off of it, but I'm not getting rich. But it was. Now, have both my daughters read it? Because they're the only two I wrote it for. If you ask them, they'll say, we've read parts of it. And the other one says, well, Daddy, we lived it. So, we know what it is. And that's fine. When I'm dead, they'll finally read it and go, oh, oh yeah, I remember when you used to say that. And but it'll be there for them when I'm gone, I guess. So we'll see.
Well, that's awesome. I enjoy those types of stories about the books and about why they get created and written. And have you given any thought about writing another version for the granddaughter?
No, it would be part two. I guess I would have to get a lot more lessons, life lessons. I don't remember them all right now, but yeah, no, I haven't thought about that for the granddaughter.
Are there any of those experiences or lessons that, when you're thinking back, that you think are valuable for other grandfathers to know about and to understand?
Yeah, I guess we're very lucky in that. Well, like I said, we're kind of late bloomers in the grandparent stage here. We're 62 and she's not even one. But that allows us time. I know a lot of grandfathers are working, when they have grandchildren, and other things take over. We're very lucky in that, we have the time. Yes, they live a long ways away from us, but we have the time to go visit them and stay with them. She was sick the other night, and they're taking her to the emergency room. And I've always told my daughter, I said, Mother and I can be there in 24 hours, like 10 minutes to pack, and we will drive overnight to Houston, and we can be there in 24 hours to help. And that's a very assuring thing for them, Even this one, when she was taking her to the emergency room, I'm looking at the airports around here thinking, okay, Cindy can fly down there and be with them, get to Houston, Uber to their house, and you got grandma there for a week or so. And it's just the nice that we don't have to worry about that. So we can help our kids and our grandkids, since we're in this phase of life, the retirement phase of life.
Oh, sure. And I got to ask you, how has things started to turn out for the granddaughter?
As far as her illness,
Yes.
or yeah, she's doing good. Thank you. She's doing the nebulizer thing that they breathe in some sort of medicine. And, she's a little on the, I don't know. I think she's so darn cute that people hold her and they play with her and everything. And she's not walking yet or turning over at 9 months. And so, they take her to the doctor, and doctor said, she'll do it when she does it. Don't worry about it. But I think she's got her parents pretty well trained that, I can be cute and mom and dad are going to pick me up and do whatever.
Yeah, walking and all that's a lot of effort. If I can just give a smile or some hand
Oh, yeah.
gestures and somebody
Yeah.
comes and gets me and then moves me to where I want to be.
Yeah. And she's good at it too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it sounds like she's a smart one, being able to
Yeah.
already get the parents trained up right.
Yeah. And grandparents.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Curt, is there anything else about grandparenting or your memories of your grandfathers that you'd like to share with us that I haven't asked you?
No, like I said, both my grandfathers were older, I guess like me, when I was growing up, and they're both passed by the time I was in junior high. But I do remember family was a big thing to them. I never remember my parents or my grandfathers talking about working for a living. They didn't do that. They did, but I don't remember it because I was, the late bloomer and all that. But they were good men, and good Christian men too. And I think that's important for families to have those Christian values.
Oh, yeah. Well, just having that sense that, well, and I think they go a little bit hand in hand with
Yeah.
that idea of family, and then also having a faith basis to
Yeah.
go along with that.
Yeah. But like I said, my grandfathers are prime example that, you don't have to be the CEO of a company or something like that. One of them was a farmer and the other one was a store owner. One of them was college educated. The other one wasn't. And they did really well for themselves. So, and their families, they left a good legacy.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Curt, I've had you on, and I really have appreciated you being on here and talking to us about your grandfathers. And, I want to make sure that we stay in touch and we get back together, talk about, your experiences and your exploits. I know you guys just got back from New York City and birthdays and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I want to stay in touch, but I do appreciate you being on the Cool Grandpa podcast. Thank you.
Hey, I got to practice because I want to be a cool grandpa. I'm just 9 months into this. And so I need all the help I can get.
Well, you're off to a great start.
Okay. Thanks, Greg. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. I appreciated Curt coming on the show. It was great to get to know him a little bit more, get to know how he really enjoys living and being by a lake. I think that's really a great opportunity for a lot of us to focus on for maybe future plans if we're not retired, or if we are retired and there's a setting that we really enjoy, finding ways where we can incorporate that setting into our lives maybe a little bit more. So maybe instead of driving off to the mountains, maybe you find a place to relocate close to the mountains or to the beach, whatever that is. I think it's beneficial for you. I think the kids and the grandkids enjoy seeing grandpa and grandma in a place that makes them happy and content. So that was a big takeaway that I had. The other one too is I love this idea of being able to have a small family compound or resort or retreat, whatever that is, where all the cousins, all the extended family can get together and see each other. Maybe it's just once a year, but you're able to reconnect with family, and you're able to then, if you're moving across country and you're close to another relative, that you're able and comfortable to reach out to them for help and support, or just being able to be close to them on a more regular basis. So I really enjoyed this conversation, and next week we'll be talking to Cindy and getting her impressions about her grandfathers. So until next time, remember to stay cool. Thank you for listening to the Cool Grandpa Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do me a favor and share it with a friend. That's the best way you can help us to expand our community, as well as get the news out about how valuable grandpas are in the lives of those kids. If you'd like to leave me a comment or shoot me a potential topic for this podcast, please go to www.cool-grandpa.us. Look for the comments tab, fill it out, hit submit. It's as easy as that. Until next time, remember to stay cool.